Lately, the pop singer Demi Lovato has been on quite the journey for publicity. Self-discovery. After coming out as queer, her word, and then pansexual, she's now decided that she's she's not that. She's non-binary, and she'll be using they, them pronouns from this point forward, or at least until a trendier option presents itself. The mainstream media has been all over this breaking news, and the headlines have been as weird and headache-inducing as you might expect. In an article, CBS News article, confusingly titled, Demi Lovato announces they are non-binary and changing their pronouns, they reported the following. This is a reading from the article now. It says, see if you can follow along. It says, singer Demi Lovato has announced that they are non-binary and are changing their pronouns to they, them. They said that the revelation followed a, quote, a lot of healing and self-reflective work. In a Twitter video early Wednesday morning introducing their new podcast, the pop singer says they don't identify as male or female. On their podcast, Lovato said that, quote, it would mean the world if people used their correct pronouns, but they will be accepting if people accidentally use she, her pronouns, and they just want them to be making the effort. I can't even follow it, and I'm reading it. Now, look, if you went into a coma sometime in the year 2015 or so and had just now woken up, the preceding paragraph would be rather bewildering. You would be forgiven for assuming that Demi Lovato is the name for some sort of group or collective. If you heard someone say, I saw Demi Lovato in concert and they were really good, you would immediately conclude that Demi Lovato is an entire band, not one single person. This conclusion would be justified as it would be based on the rules of the English language. Little would you know that Demi Lovato is a single individual, and also, by the way, that she's not that good in concert. For the record, here is Lovato herself, or themselves, explaining why she/they have made this change.
This is 4D with Demi Lovato. Living in the fourth dimension means existing consciously in both time and space. But for me, it means having conversations that transcend the typical discourse. I want to take this moment to share something very personal with you. Over the past year and a half, I've been doing some healing and self-reflective work. And through this work, I've had the revelation that I identify as non-binary. With that said, I'll officially be changing my pronouns to they, them. I feel that this best represents the fluidity I feel in my gender expression and allows me to feel most authentic and true to the person I both know I am and still am discovering. In this first episode, I'm excited to share with you what this means to me and what it may look like for other people. I want to make it clear that I'm still learning and coming into myself, and I don't claim to be an expert or a spokesperson.
Now, it's helpful that she began her explanation the way that she did so that it would be painfully clear that the whole thing is nothing but ridiculous psychobabble. Living in the fourth dimension means existing consciously in both time and space. What is that supposed to mean? What other option do we have but to exist consciously in both time and space? Can I exist consciously in space but not time? Can I exist in neither space nor time? Can I be a spaceless, timeless, shapeless vapor floating aimlessly through an eternal abyss? I suppose it's only a matter of time before Demi Lovato assumes that identity for herself or for themselves. As I've often argued, the proliferation of these ambiguous alternative identities is really, when it comes down to it, a proliferation of narcissism. Lovato can't explain what identifying as non-binary means. She can't tell us how she arrived at this conclusion about herself. None of this can be made coherent because it doesn't really mean anything. What she's trying to say, actually, is that she is more complex and interesting than the average person. She's not sure who she is exactly, but she's sure that whoever she is, she must not be what everyone else is. Her identity transcends all labels, except the 15 different labels she's given herself over the last 6 months. But look, that's all her concern. She's free to play whatever word game she wants to play. She's free to make whatever claims about herself that she wants to make. The problem is that we are not simply asked to leave people alone and let them live how they want and identify how they want. That used to be the request, or what seemed like a request at the time to some people. Just let people live how they want. Let them be, right? It's not the case anymore. It's now demanded that we participate, that we take active roles in affirming and supporting the self-identity of strangers. I'm fine with leaving people alone. If I heard through the grapevine that my neighbor 3 doors down identifies as a cantaloupe, I'm not going to go knock on his door and scream at him to leave his cantaloupe fantasies behind. You're not a cantaloupe, damn it! I wouldn't do that. But if I'm told that I must in any way affirm or reinforce the cantaloupe delusion, then I will have to respectfully decline. He can think whatever he wants, but he can't force me to think it or to pretend that I think it. I'm not intruding on his life when I protest or resist such an imposition. I am stopping him from intruding on mine. He might live in a world where men can be cantaloupes, but I don't. I live in the real world, and I'd like to remain here. That's my lifestyle choice, and I will insist that it be respected. And so it goes with pronouns. A pronoun is a grammatical construct. It's part of language. It's not a pet that you can own. It's not your pet goldfish. It's not a fashion accessory that you can wear. You don't get your own pronouns, just as you don't get your own prepositions or your own adverbs. I suppose a man might have a special affinity for the preposition on, but that doesn't change what the word on means. If he is not sitting on a chair, but says that he identifies as sitting on it because his preferred preposition is on, that wouldn't change his actual physical relationship to the chair in real life. And by demanding that we all pretend that the word on means off and off means on, he is the one trying to impose himself on us, or off of us, as the case may be. For the sake of preserving language as a tool for conveying meaning, which is the whole reason why language exists in the first place, we would have to resist those efforts. In the English language, the word he is a pronoun that refers to males. She refers to females. That's how it works in English. They refers either to multiple people or to an unknown person. It would be perfectly valid to say, for example, look, someone left their wallet here. I hope they come back for it. Or I hope they don't come back for it if you're a less honest person. But it would not be valid to say, look, my friend George left their wallet here. I hope they come back for it. That doesn't make any sense. Because I know who George is. I know that he's male. I know that he's only one person, not Siamese twins. The word they in that context would be deceptive and confusing, and it would fail to convey meaning, which again is the entire point of language. In fact, they in that context, let's say that my friend George is non-binary, whatever exactly that means, and I use the word they. What am I actually saying? What meaning am I conveying? Because he's a male and he's only one person. So they in that context is referring to his perception of himself. It's referring to his feelings about himself. But that is not what pronouns are supposed to do. Pronouns are not concerned with your self-perception or how you feel. We have language, we have words that can talk about that. But when we are using pronouns, it is a reference to who an individual actually is. Not how they see themselves, not how they feel. That's irrelevant to the pronoun. Now, it's true that language evolves over time, but the preferred pronoun phenomenon is not an example of linguistic evolution. Let's be very clear about this. The people pushing this change are indeed pushing it. They're not just observing that it's already happened. It is a top-down change. It's not an organic development. The cultural powers that be have decided that certain words should no longer mean what they have always meant, though they can't be bothered to tell us what those words should mean now instead. They are, by force and coercion, attempting to remove the meaning from words without replacing the words with new meaning. See, language develops naturally over time in order to better convey meaning. In our case, language is being manipulated intentionally in order to make it less meaningful. That is a very, very different thing. Why does all this matter? I would hope it'd be obvious by now. Language matters. We cannot have a human society without it. Truth matters. We cannot have a society worth living in without it. We are witnessing an attack on both language and truth, and thus on society. And that matters. And it only requires a little backbone to oppose it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.